let's go over the timeline of Alissa's disappearance. It's really important. I have a 174-page document that I'm referencing, so bear with me. There's going to be some cuts, but let's dig in. Alissa went missing from Phoenix, Arizona on May 17th, 2001. She was 17, she had just turned 17 in April, and I was 12. It was the last day of 7th grade for me, the last day of junior year for her. My dad dropped Alissa off at school at about 7 a.m. Now, her getting dropped off by her dad was really nothing abnormal. Especially in May, it's really hot in Phoenix, so this wasn't a red flag at all. Now, my school started a lot later than Alissa's at about 9:30, but again, I had a field trip that day, so I can't say exactly for sure what time that started. So my dad drops Alissa off at 7, comes home, I go to school probably around 9:30, and then who knows what he does. But at about 11, he picks her up early from school. Now, it was a half day already because it was the last day of school, and to this day, nobody really knows why she was picked up early. My dad's told a lot of different stories over the years, but at the end of the day, we don't know. Now, before she leaves to go with him, she sees two people. Her boyfriend, John, she pops her head in his shop class, so very deliberate to go say, "Goodbye, I'll see you later." They had plans to go to a graduation party that night. She also runs into her friend Jessica, and they just say, like, "See you later, it's graduation, I love you, goodbye." Him picking her up early from school is a really important detail because he's told many different stories. Now, he's never formally interviewed with the police, not once. He's always refused to sit down for an interview, but he has had conversations with them. When they began investigating, which I'll get to maybe in a separate video, essentially they talked to me most of the time, but they did come to the house a few times and talk to him, very informal. But in the police report, or in the case file, I should say, this huge case file, they asked my dad, "What time did you pick Alissa up from school that day?" And he says, "Right at the end of school." And then it says he immediately added that he wanted to talk about John calling Alissa stupid, her boyfriend. He continued by describing how John slammed a door on Alissa's finger and how John had a bad temper. He also said that Alissa wanted to break up with John before her disappearance. So he's like immediately planting these seeds that her boyfriend was some bad person who he wasn't. I remember her finger being slammed in his truck door, and it was an accident. Also, my dad didn't tell anybody that he picked her up early from school that day. We only knew after the fact because he finally admitted it at some point. And even my brother has this like notorious interview with the police where he's freaking out and he's like, why would he pick her up early from school that day? Why would he do that? Which, for the record, me and all my siblings do believe he's responsible. Sorry for the tangent. So at about 11, my dad picks Alissa up early from school for whatever reason. And of course, everything after this is really his account until he picks me up later. So 11 a.m., she's picked up. He says they went to go get food. He can't remember where, what type of food, if they ate there, or if they brought it home. But he says that during this meal, they get in a big fight because Alissa wants more freedom over the summer, and he essentially says no. He says that around 12 p.m., the last thing he remembers is Alissa angrily walking to her room with her hair flying behind her and her elbows very aggressively. It's a very dramatic retelling of what he says happens. So my dad says that after he and Alissa get in this fight, he left the house to go run some errands. Again, he's very vague. He can't really remember what he was doing. There's no receipts, there's no video, there's no nothing. He says that he was shopping for a camera lens. And what's crazy about that is that timeline of errands is like 5 hours long. And it could be up to like 7 hours long. Unfortunately, the police didn't interview me until about 7 years after Alissa went missing, so I can't tell you what time he picked me up. Essentially, I got off school normally at 3:30, so I'm assuming that's about when I got back from my field trip. My dad was supposed to pick me up from school like he did every day, and he wasn't there. I don't know why, but I ended up walking home with a friend. They lived like right around the corner from the school. It was a set of sisters. So I go home with them, we hang out, we have enough time to smoke some cigarettes, and I remember my dad was eventually coming to pick me up, and I was freaking out because I thought I smelled like cigarettes. And if you guys saw my last video, my mom died, me and Alissa's mom, she passed away of cancer, so smoking cigarettes was like one thing I was not allowed to do. So I was super freaked out. I thought for sure I was gonna get in trouble. I'm picked up from my friend's house, sometime between maybe 5 and 7 p.m. I get in my dad's truck ready to like be in trouble. But that didn't happen. He was freaked out. He said, Alyssa's not answering her phone. Can you give her a call? Now, at this time, Alissa had a cell phone and my dad had a cell phone. I did not have one. So he hands me his cell phone to call her, which, presumably is the same phone he's been calling her on. So I make a few phone calls. I don't know if it was to her cell phone or our landline at the time. I have no idea, but Alissa doesn't answer. We eventually get to the house, and remember, my dad is ex-law enforcement. So we get to the house, he's immediately concerned for Alyssa's safety. I'm 12. I go into Alyssa's room first. I'm the first one in her room. I book it to the end of the hallway. I was sure that she was just going to be there and like yell at me for being in her room, but that's not what happened. I walk in. I see what looks like the contents of her backpack all over the ground right in front of the door, small room. To the left is her dresser, and there's a note on top. It's in Alyssa's handwriting, it has been verified, and it says something to the effect of, Dad and Sarah, when you dropped me off at school today, I decided I really am going to California. Sarah, you wanted me gone, now you have it. Dad, that's why I saved my money. I took $300 from you, Alissa. So I remember my dad being like immediately freaked out. Immediately worst case scenario could have happened to her. He's very scared. He's calling my brothers. And I'm 12 and I'm just like, she'll be back. In my head, she'll be back. She's just mad or something. She'll be back. But she does not come back that night. And at about 10 p.m., he reports her as a runaway to the Phoenix Police Department. Again, remember my dad's ex-law enforcement. He essentially says, my wild, rebellious teenage daughter who does drugs ran away to her aunt's house in California. So he says this almost 18-year-old kid who's rebellious ran away to a known destination. Now, you can look it up right now. The Phoenix PD, their policy on their website states that they don't do anything for runaways. Essentially, that when a child is reported as a runaway, that's on the parent to find them. So what did they do? Absolutely nothing. Now, I do have to mention, I think it's really important to mention that there were many recording devices in our home that day. There was a security camera outside, there was a hidden camera inside of our living room vent that my dad told me was to specifically watch Alissa. There was also a passive recording system on the phone, on the home phone. My dad had done these things for years. Since before I was born, he'd had some of these systems. And would you guess, there is not a single piece of evidence from that day. Not a single phone call recorded, not a single video recorded. And my dad's told all different types of stories about what happened. He said that the tapes had run out. These are old systems, right? So audio cassette tapes and VHS tapes. He said they run out. He said that he had video from that day. He even showed my brother. He's also said that the system malfunctioned. He said that the system wasn't on that day. He's told like every story in the book about why there was no documentation when he had documentation for basically every single other day. It's important to mention because my dad says that approximately 1 week later, Alissa called our home phone from California. Now, this is a real phone call that came to our house. We have this record. But again, the passive recording system on the phone, whoops, while your daughter's missing and you're freaking out, somehow didn't work, somehow wasn't ready and on. And a man who used a callback system somehow didn't use that either. He says, I believe he said that he got a phone call right after that at 5 a.m, so he couldn't use the callback system. Very, very strange. We also had caller ID, but he says that all these systems failed to capture this phone call. I told you it was a lot, I'm running out of time, but that is the basic timeline of the day Alissa went missing. Now, I do have all this information in extreme detail on season 1 of the Voices for Justice podcast. That really is like the best place to hear about Alyssa's case. Again, season 1 of Voices for Justice, all the links.